Some of you guys have probably been waiting for this, and this is really exciting to me. We have a new addition to the stable for this year. This is the new 2020 GT Sensor. This is probably going to be the bike I'm going to be riding the most. Hello hair, stop it. The big change is the wheel size. This is the first 29er bike I've owned. It's going to be something completely new. As far as travel goes, it has less travel than my Force. It has 140 millimeters of travel in the front and 130 in the back, but the geometry is almost identical, so I should feel right at home. Let's talk about some of the interesting things that makes this bike my own. So one of the most important things to me is to color coordinate my bike. To me, if a bike looks good, it rides good. It's kind of like a sports car. As much as it's important to have a vehicle that functions and performs well, you also want it to look good if you're taking pictures of it, or maybe you happen to have a YouTube channel where your bike is half of the show. So one of the things that you'll notice is all the accent colors are white. And I had a lot of trouble finding white accent colors for this bike, so I actually had to do a lot of things custom to make this work. The easiest part was these cables. You can buy shifting and dropper post housing. It was about 30 bucks for a whole roll. I can probably change that out a million times and it'll be fine. Now, this seat is from my sponsor Ergon, and they don't happen to make a white seat. So what we did is we bought some leather shoe paint, and you can go through a process to remove the silicone layer, and then you can paint over it with the leather shoe paint. And if you're wondering how it holds up, it's surprisingly good. This is going to hold up just as well as it would hold up on your shoes. Now, I should add, I'm not much of an artist, so you will see some imperfections, but making your bike your own is kind of a fun process. All right, we also have these white DD pedals. Now, these pedals are actually not new. They've been the pedals I've been riding for the past few years. We've simply gone ahead and given them a good cleaning, greased up the spindle and whatnot. The other thing we did, since I had lost a few pins, is I re-tapped the pin threads and put some new pins in. I also had a really hard time finding a white seat post clamp. I took an old seat post clamp I did have, and I removed all the anodized coloring and then spray painted it. I haven't done a whole lot of spray paint work. This isn't a part that gets scratched that often, so I think we'll be fine. If not, I can always take it off and give it another fresh coat of paint. In the front here, we have this custom Groundkeeper fender. If you haven't heard of Groundkeeper, it's a pretty cool website where you can submit your own custom design, and they will print and send that design to you within about 2 to 3 weeks. So here we have a custom Skills with Phil logo with some elevation contour lines, and I think it came out pretty sick. Then if we move up top here, we have these white stem spacers. These ones had the FSA logo every 2 inches all the way around, and I felt that really took away from the aesthetics. So I used acetone to remove that logo, and I think they look froggy fresh. I should have had something to say. All right. Now it's time to talk some of the technical details of this bike and get into some of the nitty gritty. So one of the things that I get asked a lot is, what size frame do I ride? I'm 5'10", and I'm actually riding a medium. A lot of people my size would opt for a size large. Now, if I was racing, that might be a little bit different of a case where I'd want something a little bit more stable for high speeds. But for the trail conditions here in the Northeast, where we have tight trees and it's not super steep, it's nice to have a bike that's a little bit shorter and more maneuverable. Haley, on the other hand, actually rides a size medium as well, but she's sized up and is looking for a bike that's a little bit more stable. The bike size that you want to pick will depend on your personal preferences. Now, because this bike is on the smaller size for me, I compensate by running a slightly longer stem. A lot of people tend to ride a 30 mil stem. I find I like to keep my weight over the front a little bit more, so a 50 mil stem tends to work better for me. Now, one of the other benefits of running a smaller size frame is I can run a longer dropper post. Here I have the P&W Rainier 3 dropper post, and this one is 200 millimeters long. This is the biggest dropper post I've ever been able to run, and it's freaking incredible. Dropper post goes down, dropper post goes up, dropper post goes down, dropper post goes up. Good stuff. So this year, Noble has introduced a new wheel lineup. These are the new TR37 wheels. Now, what makes them different from last year's wheels are they're not the same front and back, even though they look identical. Now, the front rim has a little bit more vertical compliance, which makes it better for traction, and it's also lighter. This back rim has extra layer of carbon, which makes it better for impact resistance. And this year, Noble is offering a lifetime warranty on their wheels. Now, paired with this wheel set is this Onyx Vesper Hub. Now, Onyx is a new sponsor to the channel, but I've been running their hubs almost exclusively for the past several years. These are the same silent hubs, but this is a new lighter version of that hub called the Vesper. The beauty about these hubs is they have instant engagement. There is infinite amount of engagement points, which means there's no lag from when you start pedaling to the time it engages in their hub. Besides the instant engagement, which is amazing on the trail, I really like the silentness, is that a word? The silence of this hub. It allows me to hear how the tires are hooking up on the dirt and know what kind of conditions I'm riding on. The other benefit is, since it's silent, I can hear rattles or things going wrong on my bike before they become a big problem. The last benefit of that is, for making POV YouTube videos, it doesn't sound like I have a beehive following me the whole way down the trail. Now let's talk about my cockpit setup a little bit more in detail. I don't like my bars to be super wide, but I also don't like them narrow. I've found anything between 775 and 790 to be my sweet spot. Now on my bars, I have these Ergon GD1 grip, and they have a slight taper from the outside all the way to this inside bit, and it's super comfortable. Moving inside, we have this PNW dropper post lever, which is one of the most buttery smooth dropper post levers I have ever used. We put one on Haley's bike, and wow, did it make a difference. I'm a big fan of brakes that use mineral oil because that's only one brake oil I have to carry in my shop, or my living room, whatever you want to call it. The other thing I like about mineral oil brakes compared to SRAM, which are very good brakes, is mineral oil brakes tend to be a little bit easier to maintain in my experience. The TRP brakes have a little bit more modulation. They're not quite as grabby as Shimano's. So for things like manuals and wheelies, I tend to like the TRPs a little bit better because I'm a little bit less trigger happy, and that makes holding balance and preventing my front wheel from slamming on the ground a little bit easier. On the other hand, if I'm trying to do something like a stoppie on my front end, I tend to like the Shimano's a little bit better for whatever reason. I know exactly where they bite and engage. As compared to a Shimano brake, they have a longer lever. For that reason, I tend to run them further away from my grip, just so my index finger falls on the tip of the lever. This gives me the most amount of leverage so I can get the most power. The other thing is I have my shifting levers set up pretty far away from my grip. This allows me to be able to death grip my bars when things get real rowdy. Now for my brake levers, I never tighten them that much. My rule of thumb is I should be able to move it with my hands, and that's usually a pretty good tightness because you want your brake levers to move when you crash. So if you do crash, you may move your brake levers, but you're not going to break this, because if you have to replace this is like $100 versus just taking out a multi-tool and just popping it back up. So you'll notice that I'm running flat pedals. I found flat pedals to just overall be more fun. I'm not looking to win a race every time I go out on a ride. My rides are just that, just for fun. So to me, I'm not worried about the marginal gains you can get through running clipless pedals. And the other thing is a safety advantage that I find flat pedals offer. With flat pedals, you're able to jump and bail off the bike quicker than you would having run clipless pedals. And I say this as someone who used to race BMX clipped in. The combination of all those factors is why I continue to ride flat pedals to this day. There's only one situation that I'll clip in, and that's if I'm doing a dual slalom race just for the gate start, and that's it. Now, one last product I want to talk about is this oval chainring courtesy of our friends at Rotor Components. An oval chainring is pretty interesting. In the spot where you're able to put the most power, so when your pedals are about this position and you have the most leverage, the chainring is the biggest it possibly can be. But when you spin it down, so like you're in your dead spot right about there, the chainring actually gets smaller. So it's like it switches from a 34 to a 30 tooth chainring while you're pedaling. So what this does is inherently it smooths out your pedal stroke so you have a more consistent power output. This gives you a little bit better traction while climbing, and on long sustained climbs, I tend to find it's easier to set into a good rhythm because you're not mashing down on the pedals. All right, that's enough technical blah, blah, blah. Let's answer the most important question. How does this bike actually feel? Now, we are in the middle of a pandemic and not all of our trail systems are open, but let's not let that get in the way. Let's go put this bike through its paces. All right, let's go give this skinny a go, but from this angle. I've never been good at skinnies. I'm gonna try to do a 180 over this little double.
Okay.
Hopefully not go into water.
Okay, maybe you are gonna end up in the water.
Hey, that's what people came here to watch.
People came here to see you get rowdy.
So they call that an Indian giver when you turn the opposite way you spin.
Oh, I thought you did that accidentally and it looked cool.
I did.
Oh.
Well, I might as well just go for a 360 at this point.
Don't really know why you were trying the 180. You should have just been going for the 360.
I did twist my bars.
Yeah, I heard that.
Someone did not tighten their bars enough.
Him.
Alright, let's double it from that direction going this way, and then we'll see if we can go the opposite way. Alright, somebody left this out here, so we're gonna put it to good use. Let's do it in slow-mo. All right, so I'm gonna let that racer finish cooking. All right, so I've tried this guy before. I came up kind of short and cased it. There's a little bit of a step down here from this little knoll all the way to like right here, this little downslope here, and you can barely fit like a wheel length in here, let alone a bike length. So my goal is to at least get my front wheel to here. I'd say that's about a good 25-ish, 30 feet. So it'll be a good first proper huck on this bike.
Good luck.
I forgot how much of like a turn there was into it.
Yeah. Which is why that net last time.
You can't really come into it with too much speed because you still need a turn. So it's finding that balance between coming in with speed and still making the gap. So.
He literally couldn't get that on his force and he just got it perfectly. How was it?
Much better than last time.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
I think we need to do that justice in slow-mo.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've never been great at stoppies and my brakes aren't completely broken in. So we're gonna see if we can stoppie down this and give the brakes a good christening. I'm better at stoppies on Shimano brakes than I am TRPs because the Shimano ones are a little bit grabbier, but let's give this a go. It's tricky because if I pulled that much on Shimano brakes, I would be on my face. Finding the balance between those two is a little tricky.
What was that?
Stop it. The earth is fighting back. So that happens when you're not putting enough pressure on your front wheel and you lock up your brake. So you gotta have pressure on your front wheel before grabbing the brake. There we go. Kind of figured these brakes out. I've given them a decent christening. Let's move on. See how this bad boy hops. She's a wild one. Yeah, I have to preload so much more on my bike. We'll count that one. I'm thinking about maybe trying to bunny hop in manual on this. Well, a little bit. What's the worst that can happen? All right, bike, let's see what you got. I did make it a little bit tricky on myself. There's a bit of a downslope before it, which doesn't help. I'm gonna give you the microphone. That way you can have some Haley commentary.
Of course you give me the mic and then you get it.
Yeah, but I did a bad word crank.
There you go.
All right, let's do one of my classic tricks, the knock knock endo. I have not done one of these in a very long time, so it's okay, big wheel, big wheels. Okay, start, not pretty. Yes, I think that's where we're gonna call this. So obviously this wasn't a full test of the bike because our trails aren't open, but it did give me a good feel for how this behaves. I do notice the wheel size, that's apparent, but I do like how it rolls faster and it does add a new challenge. So I think it's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve, but from the little I got to ride it today, I don't think the wheel size is gonna hold me back at all. Now, if you wanna know any more technical information about this bike, I'm gonna link to my website and I'm gonna try to put everything I can think of in one place so all your questions are answered. Of course, if those questions are not answered, feel free to leave your questions in the comments below. Thanks for playing bikes with me today, and I'll see you guys next time.